people could take these lessons and take these tools and be able to work on themselves and get to where they want to be. Just like, you're definitely just a super bright example of like someone getting right through depression, going through that bout. It's such a difficult battle. A doctor, you're being able to put yourself in a position where you can help people get those kind of goals. So what are some coping strategies you can give to others?
Before I actually give like specific coping strategies, just a little disclaimer on coping strategies in general and just, working on your mental health. I always just like to bring it back to, it's the simple stuff. It's literally the simple stuff. And that's a lesson I've learned during my journey too. Because before I would complicate everything and I was like, no, it can't be as easy as eating my vegetables and getting movement and enough sleep and saying nice things to myself. And lo and behold, it was all those things. Okay. I was like, no way. It can't be that. I literally remember talking to my counselor about it in university. I was like, it cannot be that easy. Like, stop. Like, you're lying. Like, literally, I remember talking to her about it. I was like, she was like, talk to yourself nicer. And I was like, oh my God, counseling is so stupid. I literally walked out of it for a few sessions and that's how I would think. And then going through my journey, I'm just like, oh my God, like it was all right. And when you start actually applying it, you start to see it. That it is the simple stuff. And it's all about making time for that simple stuff. Because really, and I'm still going to give coping strategies, as soon as you're saying coping strategies, everybody can already start to think of a few good things that they know they should be doing, but they probably aren't doing in their life. Right? Most people that I work with, most of my patients are always like, I should be doing this, but I don't do this. And they all actually come up with their treatment plan for themselves. And I'm just trying to be like, you can do it, but it's true. And so always just keeping that in mind. If you feel like it's too much, too overwhelming, you've probably overcomplicated it, and go back to that simple stuff. Just something to always remember. So number one thing I would recommend in terms of, coping strategies, make a strategy around things. That's a big part of the work that I do with patients, right? Really getting clear on what are the situations in my life that give me anxiety? What are the situations in my life that make me feel not so good about myself or make my mood feel lower? And taking a step back and really reflecting on those situations and what is it about those situations and developing a plan around it. Right? So if you have situations that give you anxiety, is it because you're not expressing your needs in those situations? And what's really happening during that time and helping yourself build a plan around it? Sometimes you can do this by yourself. Sometimes you might need support and help with other people, but that's one step towards it. Having a plan, especially when you have anxiety around specific situations, right? What's your plan around it? And I always say when it comes to things like anxiety, if you want to get over it, you got to go through it. That's the only way to get over it. But the more that you avoid it, the more that anxiety takes over you and has power over you. But if you want to get over your anxious things, you have to go through it, right? So if social situations give you anxiety, go to social situation, expose yourself to it. So that's a coping strategy. Expose yourself to what makes you uncomfortable. Which
was it called again? Exposure therapy?
It literally is
the flippant term. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so powerful, right? Because then you start retraining your brain, because you start telling your brain, oh, I am safe in this situation. I'm not dying because I'm out at a party, because your brain jumps to that. Oh my God, you're going to die. Right. Because that's our brain is so primal still. Another simple, but such a powerful strategy is deep breathing. Okay. See, again, I was just like the simplest thing ever. And these are things in university I would look at and be like, oh my God, deep breathing. This is absolutely ridiculous. Right.
I used to think the same too. I agree. I know. I'm like, right? Breathing, get out of here. I do that all the time.
Right. Exactly. And so I always love to explain the whys behind it. Right. And this is a podcast, so you can't actually see the actions that I'm doing. But the reason why deep breathing is so helpful is so you have your lungs up here, and enclosed in your lungs are enclosed in something called your diaphragm, right? So if your lungs are up here, your diaphragm kind of sits down here. And so what happens when you take really deep belly breaths, and this is where a lot of us mess up because we breathe from our chest and not from our bellies. And so what happens is that when you take these deep belly breaths, right, your lungs expand, your diaphragm expands, and your diaphragm is connected to something called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve runs from your diaphragm all the way up to your brain, and it gets activated and it tells your brain to relax. and it activates something called your parasympathetic system, which is your resting and digesting system. And that's what signals your body to calm down and relax. And so if you're not taking those deep belly breaths, you're not expanding your lungs enough, which is not expanding your diaphragm, and it doesn't activate your vagus nerve. So it's actually kind of really cool that our body literally has its own built-in system to help us relax in any moment we are in, which is actually so dope, right? But so many of us, we lead such busy lives, and honestly, a lot of us don't even know that we can activate it using this. And so, I mean, this is something that you can do at any time, right? I did this a few times when you were speaking in this podcast and you didn't even realize, right? And so it's such a powerful, powerful tool to use. And it's so simple, and it can help you be relaxed in any situation.
I just wanted to chime in on that. I remember reading an article about the fact of the chest breathing. So many people don't realize that because, in terms of social comparison, nobody wants to be fat, right? Whatever the case is. And so you're like, what? I got to expand my gut? No, that cannot be the case, right? They walk around like, but like if someone's sitting at home listening right now, try to breathe with your chest, like really compare, like, and then with your belly. Like there's so much more that you get in. And I remember when I was reading that article, I'm like, oh my God, I did the same thing reading that. I'm like, wow, what a difference. And I love how you bring up like the parasympathetic nervous system, because it's the same thing about like the exposure therapy. You say you have social anxiety, you go to a party, sympathetic nervous system's running. Oh my God, you're in danger. Oh my God. And then you're just saying that's one of those moments where you can deep breathe to kind of just relax yourself, right? And then that way you're able to kind of keep yourself composed and you allow your body enough time to realize, oh wow, I could be in this setting without being in danger, right? So it was just really interesting to read about all that.
No, and I love that. And I'm actually, one of my patients was a university student. He had social anxiety, and that's literally what he did. And I'm so proud of him because he's been getting so much better. And it's literally by implementing these simple strategies like this, because he gets into a place, he's able to relax himself. And then he's like able to like actively engage and be like, I am safe in this environment. I'm with my friends. It's okay to be me. And he's been getting so much better as a result of that. And I'm so proud of him. It's incredible.
Love it.
And then the last, coping strategy I would have, I feel like those are pretty big coping strategies, but they work so well. I actually did a TEDx talk on this a month ago. And it's all about creating happiness systems. And that's a really big word. And what I described in my talk was just about us really just reflecting on our days, right? Because ultimately, if you can just focus on trying to make one day as happy as possible, then you got to just repeat, right? And obviously adjust a little bit because situations come up in the way and stuff, but it's all about reflecting on one day from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Ask yourself, how many of the behaviors are you doing contribute to your happiness versus how many of the behaviors you're doing contribute to your sadness? You have more behaviors that contribute to your sadness, you're living a more of a sad life, right? Quotation marks. Doing more behaviors that lead to your long-term happiness, you have a happier life, right? And it all goes back down to even the smallest things, like, do you snooze your alarm clock in the morning, right? Because that's already setting your day up for something different versus not. Right? Are you giving yourself enough breaks throughout the day, right? Before, when you end work and when you enter into your personal life, do you have some sort of like a post-work ritual, right? That allows you to de-stress from work, right? The foods that you're eating, right? And the behaviors you're doing around that, right? Do you eat in front of the TV or are you sitting at a table and eating, right? And just really breaking down life and your day and just looking at behaviors. Because at the end of the day, we think thoughts, and thoughts are a huge part of mental health, but it's ultimately our behaviors that solidify those thoughts. And I always tell patients that, right? Whenever you are having an anxious moment or whenever you're depressed, what are the behaviors you're doing? Because most likely they're perpetuating those thoughts, those anxious and depressive thoughts. So sometimes it can be hard for people to jump from a negative thought to a positive thought, right? Because I've had moments where I'm just like, I'm trying to think positively. It's not working. There's something wrong with me, right? It can be hard sometimes. So to bridge the gap between that, you take positive action, right? Because the behavior can then solidify that thought, because you have 100% control over your behaviors, but you don't always have 100% control over your thoughts, because we have automatic thoughts, and that's very normal. So really just breaking down your day, just focusing on just one day at a time, right? How can I make this day as happy as possible? What are the behaviors I can do? What are the perspective shifts that I can take over things that I can't control, but I can control my perspective on them, right? And just breaking it down. When you just focus on one day at a time, what happens is that one day turns into a week, which turns into months, which turns into years. And before you know it, literally in front of your eyes, you have built that life that you've always dreamed of. And it just started off by you working on one day at a time. One
And
day,
you're
one
allowed to
behavior
feel
at a
it.
time. You're allowed to feel it. Yeah.
You're allowed to feel it. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man. Honestly, I knew this podcast was gonna be great.
Yeah.
I knew you're gonna be super awesome. I knew
Yeah,
from the, I
thank
just
you.
knew. Oh man. Oh, it was such a great conversation.
Yeah.
I can listen to you the whole time, hours, man. Just TED Talk, for days. So I'm sure
Thank
many
you.
others share. I should tell the audience too. Like I was like fangirling. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I follow you because like I follow her on Instagram and like I see all her awesome little TikToks and all her little creation and I'm like, oh man, like then I see it's like a celebrity, right? So
Yeah.
to me,
Thank you.
so I'm sure anybody else
Yeah.
wants to feel that way. Where can they all find you?
Yeah, so I'm active on TikTok, Instagram, I have a Facebook page. I'm coming out with a YouTube channel by the end of this week. So you can all find me. That's all of those at Dr. Bisleen Attli. If you want to work with me, that's an option too. You can feel free to message me on DM on either one of those things. And then also if you go on any one of my social platforms, you'll have access to like my website and some of the freebie things that I offer. So check me out at any one of those. Yeah.
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak Performance Charity. Speak, inspire, change.